Christian letter from prison to Newell. Continuing with page 2. So in the previous page, he left off writing about how he felt all of his life. He had the constant perception of being the main character of like world history, I guess. He's perceiving himself as being no, not even number one, but number zero, like the beginning of everything, of all creation, pretty much. That's what he's trying to express there. And I mean that tells you a lot of how much he values his own image as pretty much the peak of creation. But if you see the letter, if you see how he writes things, you can see that he's not sure about it. He's very conflicted about it. He's very insecure about it, but he's still trying to make you believe that. And he has a massive ego, so those two things combine into a very interesting case. Continuing, page 2. Dot dot dot. The other camera is infinite from the first person perspective of all others, and this goes even deeper, and I encourage you to meditate deeply and for yourself this and all of the truths. First of all, in that initiating paragraph there, you see a lot of conflict, insecurity, and repressed emotion. As I have explained before, whenever a person writes lines that go up and down as they go on, that's a very big indicative of insecurity and instability. For example, that is a very telling sign of depression, and Chris does that pretty much throughout the majority of the letters that he has been writing. Kind of rarely do you see Christian's handwriting. And when you see it, he's very transparent about it. It's very difficult to hide things. Whenever you write something, you have to train. You have to be like a specialist. You have to train so much in order to disguise things whenever you write. He felt strong emotion when he wrote deeper, and he also showed a little bit of repressed emotions when he wrote others. I don't know if that word meant anything particular to him, but the R has a lot of pasting of ink, which indicates the reason why letters have pastings when you have repressed energy is because you use extra force. You press harder when writing that part, which leaks out excess ink. The rest of his writing is very insecure in that part. He barely even touches the paper. He's doubting. People do that when they have doubts, whenever they are writing something, when they don't have a lot of confidence, and so on. He makes a lot of emphasis in the you. I encourage you. Notice how, just as if he was saying it verbally, he emphasizes a lot on the you, using excess force. You can see how strongly that word is written. The letters are also oversized. You can see that when he wrote you, when he thought of that word, he had a lot of strong emotions. You can see that he writes exactly as he talks. For example, whenever you see him in every video that he ever makes since like ever, whenever he's talking and he says and he says it like that, like he emphasizes and he actually writes it like that. He's very transparent. He writes the and in like giant letters, just as if he was saying it verbally. Also, as I have been saying throughout the past videos, he doesn't respect the spaces between letters. Again, imagine in your brain processes letters as the way you treat people and things. So people that are very invasive and very overly dominant, people that have those kinds of characteristics. I don't know if Chris is really that dominant, but he is invasive. So people who do that, just as they do in real life, they don't respect spaces between letters. Chris does that, and then before you know it, he uses excess space writing, which is very telling of how undecisive he is about it. He is very reclusive, but at the same time he invades other people's lives. Almost everything he writes points upwards to the right, which is a characteristic of ambition, hope. Also people with a lot of energy. In Chris' case, it can be translated as hope, not so much of energy. Matter of fact, not a lot of energy at all, because he does that, but he also finishes off a lot of his letters with hooks, downward hooks, which usually indicate decay, emotional, like by decay I mean like, which indicates clinging to the past. And alright, going forward. And the reason and truth behind my unique perception is direct and mind-blowingly simple. A lot of energy repression in that simple. Also, the two dots there are more ball-like than his usual dots that he writes. The more rounded dot are more indicative of imagination, playfulness, blah blah blah. I'm gonna keep going. I am literally the real player one. His O's very round and big, which make perfect sense. Funny enough, when he's writing that, his O's are drawn even bigger, which go perfectly well with with what he's thinking right there, with his ego boost. The more round you draw an O, the bigger and more solid your ego is. And he does that there. The O's in that part are even bigger than in some other parts and words of the letter. Also, he does the little claw things on the O whenever people draw the claw line going inwards of the letter. That is a very indicative trait of self-hurt. It doesn't really mean that he literally hurts himself. Self-hurt can be other things, can be low self-esteem, self-loathing, and so on. Things like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that he harms himself. The one avatar, again, his ego there is making himself being the real deal. The basically character number one in the universe's history. Fucking bullshit. The one avatar and this body, eyes, mind, and all of the one God body. And I am literally Jesus Christ. God damn, Chris. God damn. I mean, I'm not religious or anything, but I know that this type of shit is like important to some people, you know? But aggression in the L there, in literally, he was literally writing literally when he showed aggression. He sort of aggressively marked the L as he does in the D of reincarnated below, and the way he does on perception a little bit above, like reawakened. He is sort of aggressive about sending the message Jesus Christ, himself, fully reincarnated and fully reawakened. Even the dimension merge literally completed and concluding the scene for the collective shift and such. All of this is literally huge chunks of the past, present, and in progress events of my second coming. Period. That period is not even a period, it's more of a comma. Same things I have been pointing out previously just keep appearing here, except the more he writes this, the more he's getting into it, and you can see how much he's getting sort of excited about it. He's writing more rushed, and he's also using more force whenever he's pressing against the paper, making the ink darker, because he's like, he's getting pumped writing this. Basically, he's getting an ego boost, and an adrenaline rush sort of thing. And not all details of the past chronicled scripture writing are accurate, and as member of the council of gods and goddesses with the strongest and direct connections, I know the details have changed some to a lot, In regard of the scriptures of the past, 3 days on earth equal 4 months. What? What? Oh, okay. With 24-hour days slash nights. Such in heaven realm. So yeah, this is the one immortal body, and this was none other than I, off and on that cross over 2,000 years ago in my past life. Personally, notice how much bigger he wrote life, emphasizing on that past life, trying to make up, trying to look more convincing, writing it bigger, and also overlapping the more lining on the E. Same thing on personally, only smaller. Cross, lightning, heart, a drawing thing. Putting drawings whenever you are writing something is not only childlike, it also indicates artistic people, which of course Chris is actually is artistic. Not only autistic, is artistic. Also his drawing symbol thing is large, very noticeable. He likes to be the center of attention. And notice how he loses steam when he is writing the last paragraph. He's probably not as secure about it. He's more doubtful about the last paragraph. Let's see what he wrote. Each and every prayer and praise to Jesus. Dot dot dot. Drawing symbol again in basic. Dot dot dot. As of February 1982, the comma at least have been directed to this body and soul. Knowledge sheet 3 judgment date is nearing. You know this well. Praise. Obviously, he's very much aware of all of this being absolute crap. So he doubts it, and he even doubts it when he's writing it. Almost as imagine whenever you write something so lightly, imagine as you subconsciously wish other people wouldn't be able to read it and you barely even scratch the surface of the paper. That's how I can explain it a little bit. Basically, as I mention it every time, writing very lightly on the paper indicates insecurity, and Chris is insecure about writing that. Why? Well, because he's actually aware that he doesn't really believe in that shit. He's trying to pretend that he does. He's trying to convince himself. He's trying to convince others, but he doesn't really believe it. Next part later in another video. Bye.